Welcoming Honorable Minister of Railways, Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, Government of India, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, Secretary DPIIT, Shri Guru Prasad Mohapatra, Secretary General, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, His Excellency Vladimir Norov, Joint Secretary DPIIT, Shri Anil Agarwal, Chairman CII Startup Council, Mr. Kyrgyz Gopalakrishnan, dignitaries, and guests from the SCO member states, esteemed speakers, our talented entrepreneurs and friends from all the SCO member countries. It is my pleasure to be addressing you all on this platform, the first ever SCO Startup Forum. India has a robust and vibrant startup ecosystem that is growing at a steady pace. India is currently the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, with over 38,000 startups, close to 25% of which are core technology startups operating in areas of artificial intelligence, robotics, cloud computing, IoT, digital health, financial and education technology. Indian startups are constantly looking for opportunities to expand to new global markets and acquire customers. International expansions provide various key benefits for startups, such as market validation, increased revenues, and access to cross-border funding. Today, together, we launch the first ever SCO Startup Forum under the chairmanship of the Republic of India, laying the foundation of multilateral cooperation and engagement among the SCO member states. The SCO Startup Forum will witness the participation not only from government bodies of the SCO member states, but also from all stakeholders of the startup ecosystem, such as entrepreneurs, incubators, mentors, investors, students, and academics. The SCO Startup Forum is envisioned to have an entrepreneurial activity zone that will include a range of activities under the areas of cooperation for the startups in the SCO member states. These activities will run parallel to each other, and relevant stakeholders from the SCO member states are encouraged to participate in the activities. Renowned organizations and professionals have been invited to conduct these activities. We have an exciting day planned for everyone with a focus on startup policies, women entrepreneurship, incubators, and innovation showcase and pitching sessions. I now invite Shri Anil Agarwal, Joint Secretary DPIIT, to share the journey of Startup India with everyone and to set the context for the SCO Startup Forum.
Honorable Minister of Railways, Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, and Food and Public Distribution, Government of India, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, Dr. Guru Prasad Mohapatra, Secretary, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, His Excellency Mr. Vladimir Norov, Secretary General, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Mr. Kyrgyz Gopalakrishnan, Chairman of the Confederation of Indian Industries Startup Council, dignitaries and respected guests from SCO member states, esteemed speakers, our talented entrepreneurs, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege and honor to welcome you all to the first ever SCO Startup Forum hosted by India. I would like to take this opportunity to walk you through the story of the Indian startup ecosystem. The Indian startup ecosystem is the third largest ecosystem in the world. India, one of the youngest nations in the world, was home to 23 unicorn startups before this year started. And as per a report, 7 unicorns have been added additionally in 2020 despite the COVID-19 pandemic. We continue to witness an expansion in industries targeted by the Indian startups. Fintech, health tech, enterprise technology, health technology are some of the sunrise sectors of our ecosystem. The adoption of artificial intelligence and deep technology is now being seen increasingly in many areas. From over 38,500 startups, the median age of founder entrepreneurs is only 31 years. 45% of our startups come from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Each of these startups create approximately 12 direct jobs. 29 states and UTs in India have startup-centric policies that are the foundations of a robust startup ecosystem. These are outcomes of the Startup India initiative, which was launched on January 16th by our Honorable Prime Minister with an objective to provide hand-holding, simplify regulations, provide funding support, incentives, and promote industry-academia partnership and incubation. The Startup India initiative has truly been instrumental in accelerating the growth of our entrepreneurs and innovators. All states and UTs in India have at least one startup now. These are now spread across 590 districts in all of our 28 states and all of our 8 union territories. The fact is that 9 states and UTs have more than 1,000 recognized startups. 45% of the recognized startups have at least one woman as a director. Some of the key offerings of the Startup India initiative are: we provide income tax exemption on profits to startups. They are provided with 80% rebate in filing of patents and 50% rebate in filing of trademarks. We have created a fund of funds for startups with a corpus of 10,000 crore rupees to provide funding to deserving startups by professional agencies. The recognized startups are eligible to avail various benefits for public procurement. Our government e-marketplace, a national public procurement portal, has more than 6,600 startups who have received about 40,000 orders with a total value of more than 1,400 crores. We have established the Startup India Hub, a single point of contact for all our startups. It has more than 430,000 users. We also have a pro bono entrepreneurial course that has 280,000 learners registered. We have taken a number of recent initiatives to further strengthen the startup ecosystem in our country. The first ever National Startup Awards have been launched very recently to recognize outstanding startups and ecosystem enablers. 36 startups across 12 sectors of economy and 1 top incubator and accelerator were declared as winners. Apart from cash prizes, we are comprehensively handholding them for achieving the next stage of their growth. The startup ranking framework is an annual exercise which we do with an objective of building capacities in states and UTs so that they are able to take proactive steps to strengthen their startup ecosystems. We have launched an online discovery platform for startups, the Startup India Showcase, which showcases some of the best startups that we have. We have also launched a blockchain-based verification system to provide real-time verification of certificates for startups. Only 10% of India's population identify itself as speaking English. We are working to address the challenges faced by startups who are offering their services in Indic languages. We've also been trying to develop Indian digital maps and navigation systems. We aim to help create a better ecosystem for startups working in this sector. With the increasing need for easy availability of capital by early stage startups, we are creating a Startup India seed fund to provide early stage financial assistance to startups. We are also creating a credit guarantee scheme to finance early stage debt for startups. One of the key objectives under the Startup India program is to help Indian startups gain international markets. We have collaborated with 10 countries to provide a soft landing platform to startups from partner nations and to promote cross-pollination of ideas. The UK-India Startup Launchpad, the Japan-India Startup Hub, the Indo-Russia Innovation Bridge, the India-Korea Startup Hub, the India-Portugal Startup Hub, the India-Finland Collaboration, the Indo-Dutch Startup Link, Sweden-India Startup Sambandh, India-Israel Innovation Bridge, and India-Singapore Entrepreneurship Bridge have proved to be an overarching propellant to India's startup enthusiasm by enabling an array of support like access to capital via corporate grant challenges, incubation support, exchange programs, visa felicitation programs, networking support, and market access through marquee events. India has proposed the creation of a special working group on startups and innovation. This is an area where India has a global presence and we could contribute immensely within the SCO mechanism. This special working group will open different areas of cooperation among the SCO member states. The special working group shall provide necessary guidance to startup ecosystems in the member states for promotion and sustainable growth of their startups. It will prepare recommendations and proposals for the development of startups through multilateral exchange programs. The group shall take into consideration the needs and requirements of startup ecosystems of each member state. The group will conceptualize and implement initiatives and programs to help grow startup ecosystem in the member states, and it will also encourage multilateral knowledge exchange programs. These collaboration between the SCO member states can take the form of sharing of best practices, mobilizing capital for startups, multilateral corporate engagement, procurement of social innovations by government entities, conducting knowledge exchange workshops, and multilateral incubation and acceleration support programs. The SCO Startup Forum is the first step in the direction of multilateral cooperation among the SCO member states for development of our startup ecosystems. To host this first ever SCO Startup Forum, we have built an augmented virtual reality platform to provide a holistic and interactive 3D environment for all the attendees, trying to provide the look and feel of a real startup event. The platform gives access to multiple features to include parallel sessions in different languages, a virtual startup showcase, and also a live pitching session accessible to participants from across the world. We have also provided facilities of translation of presentations and live audio feeds to our speakers, making the Startup Forum trilingual. I am happy to inform that we have witnessed immense support for from startup member states in terms of participation of speakers, startups, innovators, and entrepreneurs. Today, we have for you startups from across all member states in the startup showcase and the pitching session. We have over 40 speakers from across all the member states. We have seen registration from over 1,600 stakeholders from more than 50 countries covering all continents: Asia, Europe, North America, South America, Africa, and Australia. I hope everybody has a fruitful time today. I once again welcome and thank all the dignitaries and entrepreneurs for their participation in the first ever SCO Startup Forum hosted by India. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Anil sir, for your constant guidance and support for the Startup India initiative. I now invite Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan to share an industry overview of India with the global audience.
Thank you very much, Sri Piyush Goyal ji, Sri Guru Prasad Mahapatra ji, His Excellency Valmir Norov, Sri Anil Agarwal ji, participants, startups. Good morning to everyone. From the Confederation of Indian Industry, let me also add my welcome and wishes to each one of you. At the Confederation of Indian Industries, we have a special council called the Startup Council. And under this council, we have set up a center of excellence for innovation, entrepreneurship, and startups. The center of excellence will support startups across the country, will create linkages with other startup ecosystems around the world, will look at proposals on policies and regulations which help startups, and also look at how to take the startup ecosystem, the support system that exists for startups to tier 2, tier 3 cities and rural ecosystems. Sri Anil Agarwal ji talked about the facilities provided by the government and how this has enabled the startup ecosystem to become the third largest startup ecosystem in the world today. What is the driver behind this? The driver, first one, is of course, the large consumer base that exists in India. India represents 1.3 billion people, 20% of the world's population. It's a population that's growing in terms of its purchasing power. India will become a middle income country with a per capita income of $5,000 to $10,000 over the period of next 5 to 10 years. We will become an economy of $5 trillion to $10 trillion sooner than later over the next 5 to 10 years. And this is a tremendous opportunity for startups to develop products and services for this very large market. Second is the complete ecosystem is represented in India today, which means that the research ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem, the venture funding ecosystem, the mentor ecosystem, and last but not the least, one of the facilities provided by CII is what is called Customer Connect. So CII has more than 50,000 direct and indirect members, and we connect the startups to these member companies. So you can think about actually as a startup, how can I now work with these large companies as customers, as mentors? How can I use the facility that's provided by these large companies to experiment? Some equipment you may need that can be provided by these large companies, as well as, of course, funding. And these large companies also become, acquirers of the startups, giving an exit opportunity for the founders and the investors. So that's the second thing. The third is the large professional base that India has. India has the second largest IT professional base in the world. This these professionals have worked with the best of the best in the world, understand business practices around the world, has worked with latest technologies, and this is the base from where the new founders are emerging. And I believe that's one of the reasons why the vibrant startup ecosystem has emerged in India. This also is the base from which you recruit people. So you have now uh, people with experience, global experience, who are available for recruitment. The next point I want to make is that together, we need to actually think about how can we expand the market for the startups beyond national boundaries. And in that sense, I compliment the SCO Startup Forum, and I compliment the Government of India for hosting the first ever SCO Startup Forum here in India. In this forum, we can actually think about how can we look at larger goals. That is, how can we expand the opportunities for our startups to move across national boundaries? How can they provide their products and services in different markets? How can we tap into the consumer available, the customers available in these larger markets? We can also tap into the funding that's available across national boundaries, share experiences, many of the things Sri Anil Agarwalji mentioned. I also believe that we need to look at harmonization of policies, rules, and regulations. Startups are small. They do not have the wherewithal to comply with multiple regulations and um, policy regimes across national boundaries. So how can we actually look at harmonizing these regulations? And this, I believe, is one of the goals the SEO Forum must set up, so that we can have easier compliance by startups when they cross national boundaries. And last but not the least, uh, there are significant opportunities in each of these markets. Each of these markets are large markets, and we need to provide knowledge sharing. We need to provide facilitation for these startups to enter different markets, and we at CII are here to provide that support to startups from other countries. We have landing pads available amongst our member companies and our member incubators. Uh, we will facilitate our own startups to go outside the country. We have taken delegations. We have actually worked with other landing pads across the world. We work with other industry associations, and and create the opportunity for our startups to increase the market they can access, increase the um, funding that they can access, increase ideas, increase um, ability to recruit talent from across these markets and things like that. Thus, creating a more vibrant ecosystem than just from the national boundary limits. This is what I believe is needed today. The larger companies have these capabilities. Now, how can we make this available for startups? I'll just give you one example of what is happening in India. The Prime Minister on August 15th announced the National Digital Health Mission. This is to digitize the health infrastructure for the country and provide quality, affordable healthcare to 1.3 billion Indians wherever they are in the country. And of course, this requires us to use technology and innovation to provide, affordable healthcare. Now, this is a tremendous opportunity. If you're a startup and if you have ideas, if you have innovations, if you have technology, if you have products, then this is a great opportunity to look at this sector in India. I'm just giving one example. Now, this could be products and services. This could be at the other end, medical devices, medical appliances, diagnostic tools, new drugs, etc. And this is quite a innovative and revolutionary, disruptive opportunity for startups to look at Indian market, and similar opportunities exist in financial services sector, in retail and e-commerce sector, in education, and every sector provides such opportunities. I'm looking forward to hearing the pitches by the startups, the presentation by the startups. I also look forward to working together with the other innovation ecosystems and other industry bodies across the partner countries and create a much larger ecosystem for our startups. Thank you and all the very best.
Thank you, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, for your insightful address. I would now invite His Excellency Vladimir Norov, the Secretary General, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, to address the gathering.
Thank you. Dear Mr. Piyush Goyal, the Minister of Commerce and Industry, dear other distinguished guests and participants of the forum, dear ladies and gentlemen, I am glad to welcome all the participants of the first online startup forum and express my gratitude to the Indian side for organizing this event. It is encouraging that on this first online forum registered more than 1,500 participants from 50 countries. We consider this event timely and necessary, as in this difficult situation associated with the negative consequences of the coronavirus pandemic, the support of young entrepreneurs, as well as promotion of creative ideas that can have a positive impact on economic recovery and the well-being of our countries and people is very important. Dear ladies and gentlemen, due to the coronavirus pandemic, the world is facing not only the greatest global health shock of the century, but also greatest economic shock, with the disruption of world trade and supply chain, reduced investment, and significant growth in unemployment. Despite all these negative impacts, the coronavirus pandemic has also brought new opportunities to our world. The crisis of the pandemic has accelerated the transition of service to digital technologies. Since COVID-19, figuratively speaking, limited the actual human interaction has become the reason for digital technologies come to the fore. Online sales companies have started to play a prominent role, becoming an important engine to help in times of isolation. A strong information and communication infrastructure, digital economy, and e-commerce have helped many countries to cope with the COVID-19 with a less loss to their economies. This highlights the importance of digitalization and digital development on a national scale. During last year's SCO summit in Bishkek, the heads of SCO member states approved the concept of cooperation of SCO member states in the field of digitalization and information and communication technologies for joint development of digital economies of the region's countries through exchange of experience, development of human capital, and implementation of joint economic and research projects. In addition to many areas related to the development of digitalization and telecommunication infrastructure, the adopted concept also envisage cooperation among the SCO member states to implement joint projects in the organization's area to create innovation cluster and technoparks using high-tech, knowledge-intensive solution and digital technologies. Special attention is paid to the exchange of experience in incubation and acceleration of startups of young entrepreneurs. All SCO member states have established IT parks and business incubators, which at the national level are trying to accelerate startups. But the efforts on one side is not enough for widespread study and promotion, as well as for the development of this area. For example, ASEAN has adopted a document called ASEAN Work Program on Starting a Business. This document identifies key issues, barriers to starting and registering a business, as well as best practices, and etc. It also identified measures to be taken to streamline the relevant processes to accelerate startups in the region. Also, within the ASEAN Startup Awards are held annually to encourage young entrepreneurs who have achieved success in their business. So I think we should study from this association in organizing the work of startups in our area. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the SCO is actively working to attract young people towards business activities. In SCO member states now living more than 800 young people. In particular, the member states advocate the development of business incubators to improve the business climate in the region and support youth startup projects. The project International Youth Business Incubator of the SCO countries being implemented within the framework of the SCO Youth Council is designed to help train mentors for startups, opening the space of business incubators for young people, as well as conduct internship in the country participating in the project. Considering the importance of innovation and digital economy as the key factors of economic growth, the SCO member states attach great importance to cooperation in e-commerce, development and promotion of startup initiatives on bilateral basis. For example, China and Russia have launched youth incubators to develop startups in the SCO region. India is also not behind in this area. In 2016, Startup India program was launched in India, which is engaged in creating an ecosystem for the development of innovation and startups in the country and attracting young professionals for this activity. To ensure knowledge exchange with the foreign countries, a single web portal, Startup India Hub, was launched in 40 different languages, including languages of all SCO countries. And this program became the platform for cooperation on bilateral level with many SCO member states. But I would like to note that all SCO member states should work together to develop this area, adopt the necessary regulation, as well as provide benefits for experts and young entrepreneurs who are involved in the promotion of startup projects. We should not forget that this World Economic Forum 2 years before published some information about their prognosis of developing in 2030 economies of 10 leading countries of the world. It will amount to $190 trillion. But at the same time, 60% of this amount of economy will be economy of 3 member countries of SCO, locomotives of our organization, China, India, and Russia. And so it is indicate that nearest decades, the SCO area will be one of the center world economic development. And that's why we should create special condition to our young generation and young entrepreneurs to benefit from this growth and make their own business. At the moment, the proposal of the Indian side to create a special working group on innovation and startup in SCO is under consideration of the sides, which deserves special attention and comprehensive support. I believe that such a working group is important for preparing and some program of multilateral cooperation of SCO member states in the field of startups. Dear ladies and gentlemen, a joint effort is needed to achieve common goals. In this regard, I believe it is timely and necessary to create an appropriate internet platform that will serve as a guide for aspiring young entrepreneurs from SCO member states to implement their startup projects in 3 languages of SCO member states, which now use it, this Chinese, Russian, English. I believe it is possible to place on this platform the legal acts of the SCO member states in the areas of startups and necessary information on the development of this industry in our region, and at the same time, good examples of successful startups among young entrepreneurs in our countries. I have such apps in my iPhone, and every day I'm receiving such good examples. I think such information will encourage our young people. In addition, we suggest that the parties consider holding webinars during which they could develop proposals for the preparation of a program of multilateral cooperation for the development of startup projects in the SCO region, as well as exchange experience, ask each other questions, and become creators of joint projects. The SCO Secretariat is ready to provide all possible supports in this process. For young and future businessmen, such events will be impetus for their further development. Thank you for your attention and wish you everyone fruitful and successful work.
Your presence has graced the occasion of the SCO Startup Forum. We thank you. I now invite Dr. Guru Prasad Mohapatra to set in motion the launch of the SCO Startup Forum.
Thank you. Good afternoon and namaste to all dignitaries and distinguished participants. Honorable Union Minister of India for Railways, Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, Sri Piyush Goyal ji, His Excellency Secretary General, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Sri Mr. Vladimir Norov, Joint Secretary, our Department of Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade, Sri Anil Agarwal, the Chairman, CII Startup Council, Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan, speakers, entrepreneurs, and friends from the SCO member states and across the world. I am indeed honored to be addressing you all today, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the first ever SCO Startup Forum. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a permanent intergovernmental international organization, the creation of which was announced on 15 June 2001. In 2017, the Republic of India joined SCO as a full member, and since then, our country has imbibed the ethos of the organization and extended its support to achieve the objectives of SCO. India's chairmanship of the SCO Council of Heads of Government 2020 is yet another effort to contribute substantially to the trade and economic agenda of SCO. India has regularly participated in various SCO meetings in the matters of law and justice, external trade, defense, tourism, economic activities, neighborliness, and environmental protection. India's history is closely knitted with the Central Asian nations. Various measures have been taken from the Indian side to strengthen these umbilical bonds. India's growing economic potential and vast experience and expertise in building institutional capabilities can add greater value. Further, sharing best practices among all the SCO member states in new areas of cooperation can forge a common vision for the region and help all of us to coordinate our efforts to come out of the debilitating effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on our nations and our people. India has seen a vast entrepreneurial movement across the country in the startup system. Over the last 4 years, since the launch of the Startup India initiative by our Honorable Prime Minister of India, we have seen tremendous growth with over 38,500 startups being recognized by the Government of India. Startups recognized are spread across many sectors. As of now, 48 industrial sectors reported startup registrations in India. These recognized startups are spread across 590 districts, 28 states, and 8 union territories of India. All states and union territories in India have at least one startup. The latest addition to this list is Lakshadweep, where the first startup was recognized in February this year. In fact, 9 states and union territories have over 1,000 recognized startups each. 44.6% of these recognized startups have at least one woman director, which shows the increasing participation of women entrepreneurs in the Indian startup ecosystem. There is so much left to be done yet, and we hope to further this momentum in India. It is also true that the SCO member states enjoy emerging and mature startup ecosystem. The SCO member states are home to more than 40% of the world's population. With the growing aspirations of our youth and the advancement in science and technology, it is natural that entrepreneurship emerges as a strong pillar in our economics and help us tackle complex problems. Thus, today, we have a golden opportunity to learn from each other. The new age startups are flourishing in the fast-paced and dynamic economy of today. Startups are not only developing innovative solutions and technologies, but are also generating employment. The SCO Startup Forum will lay the foundation for multilateral cooperation and engagement among the SCO member states to develop and hone up their startup ecosystems collectively. There's a lot that the SCO member states and the startup ecosystems can learn from each other. Hence, it is imperative to nurture and support the startup ecosystem and help the SCO member states to grow together. The Startup Forum is envisaged to be a dynamic platform for not only government bodies of the SCO member states, but also all stakeholders of the global startup ecosystem. Our forum aims at achieving the following objectives: empower the local startup ecosystem in the SCO member state, provide value to startups through knowledge sharing workshops, enable access to investors and cooperate in the startup, exchange best practices on how institutional interventions can be introduced to support the startup ecosystem, and showcase innovations to the SCO member states to a global audience. The SCO Startup Forum is the first step towards a larger collaboration among the SCO member states. This Startup Forum will open arenas of collaborations and multilateral engagements. By laying this foundation today, our SCO member states may accelerate their efforts to work towards creating a permanent, long-term, and constructive outcome from the SCO Startup Forum 2020. India will be very happy to support and help the SCO member states to develop and nurture their startup ecosystem. I once again extend a very warm welcome from our side to all the dignitaries and distinguished participants. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your continued guidance and support. I now invite Honorable Minister of Railways, Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, and Food and Public Distribution, Government of India, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, to launch the SCO Startup Forum 2020. Respected Minister, Commerce and Industry, sir, you are on mute. If you could unmute.
Thank you, Shruti. His Excellency Vladimir Norov, the Secretary General of the SCO, Dr. Guru Prasad Mahapatra, Secretary DPIIT, Government of India, Shri Anil Agarwal, Joint Secretary, Shri Chris Gopalakrishnan, Chairman CII Startup Council, distinguished dignitaries, guests from the SCO member states, talented entrepreneurs, esteemed speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to participate in the launch of the SCO Startup Forum this morning and to address you all from this platform. My compliments to the Secretary General and the Secretary, Dr. Mahapatra, for leading this very important initiative and for taking it forward on a fast track in the last few days. Ever since India joined the SCO as a full member, we have played an active and constructive role in several initiatives of the SCO organization. And I do believe going forward, we shall continue to play a very important role in fostering greater cooperation and greater engagement. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization has been a key regional cooperation effort in the Eurasian region in the past 2 decades. The SCO member states have a huge amount of untapped potential and talent, and cooperation amongst these countries will lead to an enormous spread of mutual benefit and prosperity for the people of our region. In fact, the ethos of cooperation among the SCO member states is reflected in the goals of the SCO. States are encouraged to strengthen mutual trust and neighborliness and promote effective cooperation in politics, trade, economy, research, technology, and culture, as well as education, energy, transport, tourism, environment, and other areas of mutual requirement. Our joint efforts to maintain and ensure peace, security, and stability in the region and move towards the establishment of a transparent, fair, and rational new international political and economic order is at the core of our engagement. The recent SCO meetings highlighted the trending momentum of new areas of cooperation to develop potential synergies among the SCO member states. While the areas of cooperation are continuing to expand, the participation from the SCO member states is a testimonial to the strong desire to strengthen the bonds of regional cooperation. One of the common threads that knit the SCO member states together is the spirit of entrepreneurship. Today's launch of the SCO Startup Forum is a reflection of the positive attitude of all member states to further expand the engagement and nurture the spirit of innovation amongst our member states. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi had mentioned, startups are the engines of exponential growth, manifesting the power of innovation. I congratulate all the members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization for this first ever SCO Startup Forum. I'm sure, as the earlier speakers have mentioned, sharing our best practices, knowledge, engaging corporates and investors from all the member nations, monetizing and mobilizing capital, and setting up incubators, providing exposure and scale with market access will certainly help these worthy ideas of our startups, the innovations, the new unique concepts that the startups come up with will get a much larger engagement through the SCO Partnership Forum. I'm delighted that the day's program has several sessions, including exclusive discussions to promote women entrepreneurship. In fact, in India, a very large number of startups have been founded by women. As was said earlier, youth is our wealth. In these times of vulnerability and uncertainty, they have responded with agility, adaptability, and ability. Young firms in India have reacted fast and very flexibly to the COVID pandemic. As was mentioned, the average age of our entrepreneurs in the startup system is only 31 years. All these youngsters have created very critical applications which have helped many sectors go digital and face the problems of the pandemic with confidence and emerge successfully as we unlock the economy and once again expand economic activity. Our startups have demonstrated high energy and enthusiasm to give many timely and cost-effective solutions. In fact, if I can share some examples of the way our startup ecosystem has come up with solutions to the pandemic and how they have used very interesting ideas to prepare India for the post-COVID world. In fact, very durable and easy solutions in terms of personal protective equipment, 3D printing of face shields and respirator valves, polycarbonate face shield helmets, SN19 helmets for frontline medical practitioners and responders show speed and capability of responding to the pandemic. In terms of detection of COVID-19, a virologist molecular startup developed a very low-cost COVID-19 qualitative PCR kit. The head of the company, in fact, tested the kit on herself a day before delivering a baby girl. This demonstrates courage and confidence of our young entrepreneurs. Our hunger for growth is demonstrated by the number of edtech apps for upskilling and education, which have provided free access of content for learning to millions of Indians during the COVID period. As our former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, an eminent scientist and one of the greatest sons of the soil, had said, knowledge with action converts adversity into prosperity. I think our startups have demonstrated their ability to convert this very severe adversity into a great potential for the future. And when the startups of all our member nations work together, I am sure the nations and these entrepreneurs and the people of our countries will yield great benefit and excellent results using these innovations and ideas. The futuristic vision combined with decisiveness has provided India a solid startup ecosystem about which the earlier speakers have given a flavor. In fact, Prime Minister Modi has been at the forefront of India's engagement with the startups. And if I may quote a small piece which he had spoken about, which really encouraged our young startups. And I quote, "We have a million problems, but at the same time, we have over a billion minds." A billion minds working for a better future for India, prosperity for the people of India, and a huge better future for the world in which we live today. Creativity, innovation, and disruption will be the new mandate in the emerging future. In this globalized world, our problems have also become planetary in scale and effect. Nations will have to communicate, collaborate, and cooperate to create impactful change. As Pythagoras, the famous mathematician and philosopher, had said, and I quote, "Friends are as companions on a journey who ought to aid each other to persevere in the road to a happier life." I'm sure all the member states of the SCO, all our friends, will work together to help each other towards greater prosperity for the SCO nations, our people, and for the world in general. In fact, very recently, India recognized some very interesting startups through the first ever National Startup Award Program. And we provided an encouraging framework to have more and more startups come up with brilliant ideas, engage with solutions, innovative solutions to solve problems that the people and businesses face. I recall there was a very smart system, an application, a mobile app prepared for patient monitoring, a dashboard, an AI-powered board, a smart drug delivery system, very smart remote healthcare solutions that were recognized when we gave out the awards. In fact, even in space technology, a company had built a satellite for Earth observation and scientific applications, developing reusable micro-launch vehicles, something which was a first for India. A manhole cleaning robo was probably the first of its kind in the world that was developed by a startup in India. In fact, even in clean energy, one of our companies came up with the world's first eco-friendly, non-hazardous AA battery system using aloe vera as replacement in dry fuel batteries for clocks, flashlights, toys, which are cheaper and much more durable. So a number of good ideas are coming out of the startup system in India and elsewhere. And I'm sure this engagement with startups of all member states will further develop this ecosystem, will further encourage and expand the startup world and their vision. As they say, history is to learn lessons, present is to take decisions, and the future is to create, to innovate, and disrupt. I think this forum is an opportunity for all the member nations to share and learn from their experiences, their mistakes, take decisions which are society-centric, not simply for your own self, for your own country, but for the larger good of the world, and collectively put our best efforts to make the future beautiful, sustainable, and achievable. As policymakers, we have a large responsibility on our shoulders. We are at this critical juncture of human history where our actions shall directly impact billions of people. It is our collective responsibility to frame policies that nurture the ecosystem of startups, provide them strength, resources to grow, and ensure a safe working environment for their employees. For this, we need to innovate and develop lateral thinking. As Steve Jobs has said, It is not a faith in technology, it is the faith in people. And I'm sure collectively we can demonstrate our resolve and our faith in our entrepreneurs, in our people, to collaborate through this SCO Startup Forum, going beyond strategic concerns and economic benefits, but work together for achieving greater goals, rapid innovation, and development. Let us work together for a bright future for our young entrepreneurs, to further foster the spirit of collaboration and partnership, and build upon this mission for the wider good of the world. My best wishes for the day's deliberations, and I declare the Startup Forum open and pray for its success and rapid growth in the years to come. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words. We thank everybody for joining us today in the SCO Startup Forum. We may now invite all our esteemed participants and attendees to visit the various panels to explore the Startup Showcase, listen to renowned speakers from various countries about their startup initiatives, and witness the startup pitches in the corporate and investor engagement. We appreciate your presence. Thank you.